Good evening and welcome to tonight's special assignment. I'm your host, Ashraf Garda. On the 21st of September, Kenya was rocked by terrorist attacks that left more than 70 people dead and dozens injured. As the world came together to condemn the attacks, it emerged that one of the alleged terror masterminds had used a fake South African passport to gain entry into Kenya. This put South Africa's own security situation under scrutiny. Now, Special Assignment is in possession of footage that shows a Zimbabwean prophet predicting the attacks before they occurred. We get an exclusive interview with this prophet and we ask pertinent questions about his prophecies and why the attacks could not be prevented. This investigation by Peter Moyo.
On 21 September 2013, Kenya was hit by terror attacks. It was a siege that would claim the life of a South African citizen as the terrorists shot brazenly.
He was actually shot 4 times and not 3 times.
The top suspect in this all-cowardly act, this British citizen who had entered Kenya using fraudulently acquired South African documents. But should authorities have taken heed of this prophet's warnings a year before the attacks?
And this is a bomb coming up there. And I've specifically said Kenya. I didn't say England. So you write it down.
It all came like a wave. On a busy day like any other, Kenya found itself faced by a terrorist attack. Gunmen had stormed this mall in the heart of the capital, Nairobi, shooting and killing anything in their path. Children, women alike, no one was spared. Bodies littered the streets as survivors scurried for cover. What had once been a peaceful and quiet shopping mall now resembled a war zone. Witnesses said the gunmen separated Christians from Muslims before mowing them down with bullets.
Smoke you are seeing from the building is as a result of the terrorists setting some mattress on fire to distract our action. I am aware that indications are that the building have been blown off, but nothing could be further from the truth. We want to assure Kenyans that our forces are in full control of this situation, and we are certain in no time that the fire will be put off.
In this CCTV footage released afterwards by the Kenyan authorities, the gunmen can be seen moving from one shop to the next, searching for survivors. But who were they?
They are clearly a multinational collection from all over the world. We have an idea, and we also have an idea that this is not clearly a local event. We are fighting global terrorism here.
There are between 10 to 15 armed terrorists inside the building, as well as many unarmed, badly shaken, innocent civilians.
Meanwhile, Kenyans rushed to the call for support and blood donations for the victims, a sign of a nation united in grief. The Kenyan president was quick to assure a nation seeking for answers.
If their thought is that this was to intimidate us, it has only increased our commitment to fight and win this war.
But the terror tragedy had hit close to home. President Kenyatta's own relatives, his nephew and his fiancée, were part of those that had been killed in the attacks. On the other side of the world, Kenya's vice president was forced to cancel his appearance at the International Criminal Court as the news of the attack spread across the world like wildfire. He had been due to answer to charges of crimes against humanity.
It is essential, we say, for the William Ruto to go back. One wouldn't have expected, or the world would have found it intolerable if the President and Vice President of the United States were not in the country after 9/11. Well, this is Kenya's 9/11.
The chamber does excuse Mr. Ruto.
It is because of the Somali problem that Kenya is engaged in that these terrorist attacks have been waged on Kenya. we hope that some people will begin to contextualize what is going on and begin to appreciate the challenges that Kenya is going through.
Meanwhile, Somali rebel group Al-Shabaab was quick to claim responsibility for the attacks, saying this was punishment for Kenya's involvement in the Somali conflict. Kenya argues it had been left with no choice but to get involved to protect its national interests along this 640-kilometer border with Somalia. But this has left Kenya in the firing line.
This is one attempt that has succeeded. There has been numerous threats which have been neutralized in the past.
Within a day of the attacks, this woman, Samantha Lethwaite, a British citizen, appeared as the top suspect. Kenyan authorities claim she had also been involved in a thwarted terror plot in which this man, a fellow British citizen, Jermaine Grant, was captured. This was a few months before the Westgate bombings.
We certainly feel very strongly that what has happened in Kenya indicates the extent at which terrorism could go. So many innocent souls have died. Why should this be allowed? We believe that as the UN is meeting, it's absolutely important that we take a very firm decision.
A firm decision that will come too late for James Thomas, a South African businessman also shot dead during the attacks.
And it seems that he was actually shot 4 times and not 3 times. But the other facts previously stated that he was at the front of the mall and that he's probably one of the first people to be involved and that he probably was killed quite quickly.
But could these attacks have been prevented? Should the Kenyan authorities have acted on a warning from a prophet?
In a moment, exclusive footage of a prophecy on the Kenyan attacks.
As the storm settles, questions are now being asked about Kenya's intelligence capabilities. Could the Kenyan government have done anything to avoid the attacks? Special Assignment is in possession of a video which seemed to have been made long before the Kenyan attacks. In this video dated 23 September 2012, this British Zimbabwean prophet Hubert Angel seemed to be predicting the Kenyan attacks a year before they happened.
I'm seeing a lot of these people expanding their war games in Kenya. And this is an open space where officials are. Open space. Like you can go there and do your market there. And this is a bomb coming up there. And I've specifically said Kenya. I didn't say England. So you write it down.
The prophet again repeats his warning 10 months later in this video dated 30 June 2013.
We need to really pray for Kenya and get the Lord's mind settled in the country. Because there is a lot of progress happening in Kenya. But this is a small group that decided the Christian community is going up too much. Let's kill some people. And I saw even like a police, like a, what do you call it, an authority, you know, where even guards are there and they are bombing. And this, I'm talking of Kenya. I didn't say China. I said Kenya. Did I say Kenya?
Exactly 2 months before the attacks on 21 July 2013, he reiterates the need for prayer to avert the attacks.
Remember the Kenya prophecy. These are days closing. They are coming close and coming close. To say how did they get in there, no one knows. Some of them using even homemade material, not nice ones. You know, a situation where people make these small things and they have got spikes and they but it's explosive. We are starting to pray Wednesday going forward. Then we end 21st.
Prophet Hubert Angel, who is based in Zimbabwe, is not new to controversy, having previously predicted other widely publicized deaths like that of Margaret Thatcher, Michael Jackson, and former Malawian President Bingu wa Mutharika. We called him into studio and I began by asking him about his gift of prophecy.
The gift of prophecy is only forthtelling. The office of a prophet foretells, and are foretells and tells. That means it goes to the past, the present, and the future. Only foretells only changes the future. That's the gift of prophecy. But it was, you are born with one. You don't graduate into one.
So you don't go to a school of theology?
No, you don't have to. It's not about theology. It's just the sovereignty of God. It's election by grace. When God chooses you, that's what happens. And you wake up one day, you know some things that you shouldn't know.
You prophesy events way before they happen, even about the shootout in America. But then let's come to how come you mentioned Kenya in last year on 23 September, that the massacre could not be stopped?
Yeah. Let's not concentrate on just it could not be stopped. Remember, the prophecy is the response of the human spirit to the voice of God. So I'm not independent. The prophet is void of personal opinions.
Yes.
So I just listen to what God says and then I relay it to the people. If they choose to listen, if they listen, whatever happens is up to God.
Since last year, there have been a change of government in Kenya. Did you reach out then? Did you reach out, let's say, when the new government came through?
Kenya is going through a lot of transition. There's a lot of things that are there, a lot of things that are going there. We have not actually built a lot of contacts there.
Yes.
Not that we don't want to or not that they don't want to, but we have not reached a level now that we can talk to them about these things. To understand prophecy, people have to believe in what we do.
We approached the Kenyan embassy in South Africa to ask whether they knew about the prophecy and whether their government would have acted on such prophecies if they were informed.
Even if the prophecy was right, I don't think, governments have their own way of finding out what is likely to happen. That is the role of intelligence. But if prophecies come true, then so be it. But I think as government, I wouldn't really probably go too much into details of prophecies.
Is there a chance for prophecy in Kenyan affairs? And is the High Commissioner Patrick Omoto aware of any reach out made to the Kenyan government by Prophet Angel?
I'm not aware, to the best of my knowledge. I'm not aware. If there was probably Nairobi, I'm not privy, because as you know, I'm stationed here. But if there were any attempts to pass on information, that has not come to my knowledge.
But what would you say a prophet came here, was able to tell you that something was going to happen? Would it be something that you would look at?
Well, yes and no. Because I already said, a lot of issues in government, it's through intelligence. We share intelligence, and so if it's from the intelligence point of view, of course, I'll pass on and say, from the people that I work with here, they seem to have, stumbled on this information. Maybe if it's a prophecy, probably I will encourage him more to also speak to our own church leaders and just share with them so that they pray about it.
So just how safe are we in South Africa? Let's find out after this.
The attacks on Kenya have put the spotlight on South Africa's own security situation. Security experts say that non-terrorists boast of having used the country's airports and other border transit points across the country unnoticed. The OR Tambo Airport was used by Kenyan terror attack suspect Samantha Lethwaite to come in and out of the country using a fake South African passport. Records show that she had lived in this Johannesburg suburb of Bromhof for 4 years without notice. The White Widow could have easily been driving on this road without anyone knowing. She could have easily been surveilling all these suburbs north of Johannesburg without trouble from the long arm of the law or our security agencies. She was also able to use the fraudulent documents to enter into a lease agreement with the local estate agent, Chase Everett. She has been referred to as the most wanted woman in the world, but Kenyan terror attack mastermind also known as the White Widow, was able to fool many, including this estate agent through which she rented a property for months using a fake South African ID. Her ease of access to local institutions has left South Africa red-faced and accused of being a terror haven. The Home Affairs Department, which issued Samantha Lethwaite with an ID and passport, has been quick to downplay the incident.
I do think what we need to do beyond the 2011 investigation is actually find out at the Office of Application who received the application and what form of assessment did they make of the applicant in order to be absolutely certain that this person was the legal holder of the documents that were submitted as part of the application.
But once again, the integrity of local issued documents has been called into question. This has in the past forced countries like Britain to impose visa restrictions on South Africans.
I don't think it's easy to get a South African passport. It might have been at the time, but I think we've now changed both the process of application as well as the character of the passport.
Meanwhile, South Africa's various crime-fighting groups and state security agencies have confirmed that they are closely monitoring terrorist group Al-Shabaab's activities in the country. The State Security Ministry has refused to divulge more information about this operation, only saying, "We continue to collaborate with our partners in Africa and across the world, sharing critical information on threats of such a nature. In the wake of the latest events, we will continue to be vigilant and not lower our guard in the quest to ensure that we can continue to secure the country." The Institute of Security Studies' Anneli Botha says there is need for heightened security and vigilance as terrorists are seeing the country as a soft target for planning attacks elsewhere.
What I also find attractive to South Africa is the possibility of getting South African passports, because with that they can then travel, especially through the continent, but also internationally. And that is one concern I think we've seen creeping up more and more in terms of South African travel documents being used. I think we are being used as a safe haven, not from an only Al-Shabaab perspective, but people with very different ideas using the country to train, to finance, to plan attacks in other countries. And but beneath the definition, that makes South Africa a safe haven. So I think we're beyond the discussion of are we one or aren't we one? I think we are one. I'm not saying it is Somalis, because all of those I've interviewed are not Somalis. It is people from around the region. So, and I'm worried that if we're going to see it as focusing on Somalis or Muslims or foreigners, we, in our counter response, might even drive these people becoming more extreme and having a different agenda in South Africa. You understand? Yeah. So one have to be very careful on how you approach it. The only way you're going to counter this is by sharing of information between South Africa and other officials, not only in Kenya or Uganda or Tanzania or Somalia or wherever, but also beyond, to see what can be used, what can we get, how can we investigate all of these claims successfully and address those issues.
Interpol has since issued a red warning notice, making Samantha Lethwaite the most wanted known woman terrorist in the world. This, of course, is called comfort for Thomas James' family, which fell victim and lost its loved one to a very real war that has kept the world under siege, but whose victims are mainly just innocent targets.
Go forth, Christian soul, on your journey from this world. May the angels lead you into paradise. May the martyrs come to welcome you and take you to the holy city, the new and eternal Jerusalem. May the choir of angels welcome you. And when Lazarus is poor no longer, may you have eternal rest. Go well, James.
Go well, James.
Catch you later.
Now, what's your take on this issue? Should we take prophets and these prophecies seriously? Well, tweet using the hashtag special assignment or Facebook your opinion on the official special assignment page, and you have the option to email us too. Finally, on to comments from last week's program about mental health care and the country's response towards this illness. Eddie Thompson Facebooked, a hospital without beds where patients must sleep on the ground. Do we even have a health ministry? And Cassie Chambers of SEDEC commented, I applaud the team for creating a balance between the positive and the negative aspects of mental health in South Africa. All too often, mental illness gets portrayed as the dangerous, scary field of healthcare that no one wants to talk about or deal with. Well, that's it for tonight. Join us again next week when we point out the issues that matter.